I'd like to thank Inspire Success Academy of Fitness for giving me an enjoyable course. I've learned a lot of things through Inspire, first of all not only in the practical side but in the theory side, and learning the tools to run a small business. In this course, in the Cert 3 and 4 in personal training, I thought I knew a lot about fitness through my rugby background, but Inspire has showed me that I only knew a smidgen. Through the outline of the course, not only have I learned to help people achieve their goals, but put it to practice as well. And through my journey, I think that I have enough knowledge now to succeed to where I want to be. And thirdly of all, I'd like to say thanks to Inspire for your much appreciated help. Thank you.